In the beginning, before the mountains rose and before the rivers began to flow, there was silence. The world was still, waiting for the breath of its creator. From the dust of the ground, God formed a man. Gently, with hands of infinite wisdom, he shaped the first human being, giving him form, strength, and beauty. But the man was not yet alive. He was like a vessel, carefully crafted, but waiting for its first spark. Then the Lord bent close and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. In that sacred moment, the man opened his eyes. His chest rose with the gift of breath, and his heart began to beat. This man was called Adam. He was the first of his kind, unlike the animals, unlike the trees, unlike the stars that filled the heavens. He carried within him the image of God himself, made to reflect light, love, and wisdom. As Adam stood beneath the sky, he looked around in wonder. The earth was new, the air was pure, and every sound was like music. He felt the warmth of the sun upon his skin, the softness of grass beneath his feet, and the strength of life flowing through him. And God, who had made him, looked upon Adam with joy. God did not leave Adam in an empty world. Instead, he planted a garden, a place unlike any other. It was called Eden, a sanctuary filled with life, color, and peace. In the Garden of Eden, rivers sparkled as they flowed gently between emerald trees. The air carried the fragrance of blossoms unknown to us now, sweet and pure. Birds sang with voices like golden bells, and every creature lived in harmony. Lions lay down beside deer, lambs wandered without fear, and every corner of the garden it spoke of peace. At the center of this paradise grew trees of every kind. Their branches stretched wide, offering fruit of every color, golden, crimson, and deep green. Among them stood two special trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God placed Adam in this garden, not only to enjoy its beauty, but also to care for it. Tend it and keep it, the Lord instructed. And so, Adam learned to touch the soil with gentleness, to guide the growing plants, and to walk among the animals as their guardian. But Adam was not only a caretaker, he was also a friend of God. In the cool of the evening, when the day softened into twilight, the Creator would walk with him among the trees. They spoke as father and child, and Adam's heart was filled with peace, knowing that he was never alone. As Adam lived in Eden, he discovered that the garden was not silent. It was alive with the voices of countless creatures. Some roared like thunder, others chirped like laughter, and still others whispered softly in the grass. God, who had given Adam the gift of thought and speech, invited him to name the animals. One by one they came to him, majestic, gentle, playful, or strong. A mighty beast with a flowing mane bowed its head before Adam. He looked at the creature's strength, its noble face, and said, "You shall be called Lion." The lion roared, as if in agreement, its voice rolling like distant drums. Next came a graceful animal, leaping lightly upon its hooves. Adam smiled and said, "You shall be called Deer." The deer lifted its gentle eyes to him, then bounded away into the trees. Birds flew down, their wings sparkling with colors of every hue. Adam lifted his hand and whispered names: eagle, sparrow, dove. Each bird sang its own song as if to thank him, and so it continued. Elephants with their heavy steps, monkeys with their mischievous eyes, fish swimming in silver streams, and countless others. Adam discovered joy in naming them all, for each creature was a reflection of God's creativity. Yet as the day passed, Adam began to notice something. Every animal had its pair. The lion with the lioness, the bird with its mate, the deer with its companion. But Adam was alone. God saw Adam's solitude and knew it was not good for him to be alone. "I will make a helper suitable for him," the Lord declared. One evening, as the golden light faded into twilight, God caused Adam to fall into a deep and peaceful sleep. His breathing slowed, and his body rested upon the soft grass. While Adam slept, the Creator reached to his side. With tender care, he took from Adam a rib and shaped it into something new. From that rib, God fashioned a woman, delicate yet strong, radiant as the morning light and filled with the same breath of life. When Adam awoke, he opened his eyes and saw her standing before him. His heart stirred with wonder, for she was like him, yet different. Her eyes shone with warmth, her smile was gentle, and her presence completed what had been missing. "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh," Adam said with joy. "She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man." And so Eve came into the world, not from the dust as Adam had, but from Adam himself, equal, beloved, and meant to be his companion. Together they walked through Eden side by side, no longer alone. Life in Eden blossomed with beauty and peace. Adam and Eve awoke each morning to the sound of birdsong, the fragrance of flowers, and the warmth of the sun. They tended the garden together, watering the plants, guiding the vines, and gathering fruit from the trees. There was no pain, no sorrow, and no fear. The animals came to them without threat, the rivers sparkled with joy, and the nights were filled with stars that told silent stories. Adam and Eve laughed together as they explored their home. They shared fruit beneath the shade of great trees, walked barefoot through fields of soft grass, and marveled at the mysteries of creation. Every moment was filled with peace, for their hearts were pure, and God was near. In the evening, as the cool breeze drifted through the garden, God would walk with them. His presence brought warmth and light, and his voice was like a melody that settled deep into their souls. Adam and Eve felt no shame, no division. They were one with each other and with their Creator. Eden was not only a place of beauty, it was a place of perfect love. In the heart of the garden stood two trees more mysterious than all the rest. One was the tree of life, whose fruit promised everlasting joy. The other was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, whose fruit was beautiful yet forbidden. God spoke clearly to Adam and Eve. "You may eat freely from every tree in the garden, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day you eat of it you shall surely die." The warning was not harsh, but loving. God gave them freedom, yet also boundaries, for true love allows choice. Adam and Eve understood. They lived surrounded by abundance, with every fruit and every delight already given to them. Still, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil stood in the midst of Eden, its fruit shining in the sunlight. They often passed by it, sometimes pausing to look. The fruit was fair to the eyes, but the words of God echoed in their hearts, and they turned away. For now, their hearts were content. But in the midst of the garden, where sunlight danced upon the branches of the forbidden tree, another presence stirred. Among the creatures of Eden, there was one unlike the rest, a serpent, cunning and sly. The serpent approached Eve one day as she wandered near the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Its eyes glimmered with strange light, and its voice was smooth like flowing water. "Did God really say," the serpent whispered, "that you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve shook her head gently. "We may eat the fruit of the trees," she replied. "But of the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden, God has said, 'You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die.'" The serpent coiled around the tree and hissed softly. "You will not surely die," it said, "for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like him, knowing good and evil." Eve gazed at the fruit. It was beautiful, shining with colors deeper than gold. It seemed pleasant to taste, and it promised wisdom. A desire grew in her heart, and doubt began to cloud her thoughts. The serpent's words lingered like a spell. Eve reached out, took the fruit into her hand, and for the first time disobeyed the voice of her Creator. Eve lifted the fruit to her lips and tasted it. The sweetness filled her mouth, but beneath it lay something sharp, something unsettling. Yet she did not stop. She turned to Adam, who stood beside her, watching in silence. Her eyes met his, filled with both excitement and uncertainty. "Take and eat," she said. Adam hesitated. He remembered the words of God, the warning that death would follow. Yet his love for Eve was strong, and his heart swayed. He reached out, took the fruit from her hand, and ate. In that moment, the world shifted. A shadow passed over Eden, subtle but deep. The air felt heavier, the light less pure. Innocence, once their crown, slipped away like a vanished dream. For the first time, Adam and Eve felt something new, something they had never known before, the weight of disobedience. Their eyes were opened, just as the serpent had promised, but instead of finding wisdom and glory, they found shame. Adam looked at Eve, and Eve looked at Adam, and they realized that they were naked. A flush of fear and embarrassment covered them like a heavy cloak. They rushed to gather fig leaves, sewing them together to cover themselves. The garden no longer felt like home. The songs of the birds seemed distant. The rustle of leaves sounded like whispers of accusation. Their hearts, once filled with peace, now beat with fear. Then came the sound they had once cherished, the voice of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day. But now, instead of running to him with joy, Adam and Eve hid among the trees. God's voice called out, "Adam, where are you?" Trembling, Adam answered, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, so I hid." The Lord called Adam and Eve from their hiding place. With sorrow in his voice, he asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat?" Adam lowered his head. "The woman you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree and I ate." Then God turned to Eve. "What is this you have done?" Eve whispered, "The serpent deceived me and I ate." The Lord's face grew solemn. To the serpent he said, "Because you have done this, you are cursed above all creatures. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. And there will be enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. He shall crush your head, and you shall strike his heel." To the woman he said, "I will greatly multiply your pain in childbearing. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, yet your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." And to Adam he said, "Because you listened to the voice of your wife and ate of the tree which I commanded you not to eat, the ground is cursed because of you. In toil you shall eat from it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth, and by the sweat of your brow you shall eat your bread until you return to the ground. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return." A heavy silence filled Eden. The perfect peace was broken. The shadow of death had entered the world. Though Adam and Eve had disobeyed, though shame now clung to them like thorns, the heart of God still held compassion. For even in judgment, his mercy did not vanish. Adam and Eve stood trembling, their fig leaves poor and fragile against the new weight of the world. The leaves withered quickly, and they knew they could not hide their nakedness. They felt exposed, broken, vulnerable. But God, who is both just and merciful, came near. With his own hands, he prepared garments for them, garments made not from leaves, but from soft skins. This was no simple gift. It was the first sacrifice. For life had been taken so that their shame could be covered. Gently, he clothed Adam in a tunic of skin, then Eve as well. The garments were strong, durable, a reminder that even in their fallen state, God still cared for them. He did not leave them uncovered in their weakness. As the leather wrapped around their bodies, Adam and Eve felt a strange mixture of sorrow and comfort. They grieved for what was lost, innocence, peace, the closeness of Eden, but they also felt the quiet tenderness of God's love. For in that moment, God showed them something deeper than judgment. He showed them redemption, a promise that one day their shame would be taken away forever, not just covered. And though they did not yet understand it, the garments pointed to a future hope, that the brokenness of this day would not be the end of the story. The time came when Adam and Eve could no longer remain in Eden. The garden, once their home, now stood as a reminder of what was lost. To live forever in their broken state, eating from the tree of life, would have been a curse rather than a blessing. And so, with sorrow, God prepared the way for their departure. The sun dipped low, casting golden light through the trees, one last time. Adam and Eve walked slowly, their steps heavy with grief. Every flower, every bird, every stream they passed seemed to whisper farewell. The air itself felt alive with memory, reminding them of evenings spent walking with God, unafraid and unashamed. At the eastern edge of the garden, they paused. Behind them lay paradise, bright rivers, fragrant orchards, creatures living in perfect harmony. Before them stretched a world untamed, wild fields, barren ground, winds that carried the scent of struggle. God's voice came to them once more, steady and firm, yet filled with sorrow. The way of the tree of life shall be guarded. And so he placed at the entrance of Eden mighty cherubim, radiant beings of fire and strength, with a flaming sword flashing in every direction. The way back was closed. Adam held Eve's hand and tears filled their eyes. They were leaving the only home they had ever known, stepping into a land of toil, pain, and uncertainty. Yet within them still burned a flicker of hope. For God had spoken of a promise, that the offspring of the woman would one day crush the head of the serpent. That promise was like a seed planted deep within their hearts. Though they walked into exile, they did not walk without hope. The first night beyond Eden was long and cold. The stars shone above them, distant yet bright. Adam and Eve sat close together, clothed now not only in the skins God had given them, but also in the memory of his love. Eve leaned against Adam's shoulder and whispered, "Will we ever see Eden again?" Adam held her hand tightly. "Perhaps not," he said, "but I believe God has not abandoned us. His promise will come. True, though we may not see it yet." The wind rustled through the grass, carrying with it both sorrow and comfort. For though Eden's gates were closed, the heart of God remained open. And even as they faced the long road ahead, Adam and Eve carried within them the hope of restoration. A hope that one day humanity would walk again with God in a garden, free from shame, free from fear, clothed in everlasting life. And so began the journey of all mankind. And so, dear listener, the story of Adam and Eve comes to a close. It is a tale of beginnings, of a beautiful garden, of love and companionship, of choices that shaped the destiny of all humankind. Though Adam and Eve left Eden with heavy hearts, their story was not one of despair, but of hope. For even in their failure, God's love did not abandon them. He clothed them, he promised them a future, and he set before them the path of redemption. Their journey reminds us that life is filled with choices, and though we sometimes stumble, mercy and hope are never far away. Just as the dawn follows the night, light always finds its way back into the world. As you drift into rest tonight, remember this: we are never forgotten. The same God who walked with Adam and Eve in the garden still walks with us through our days and watches over us through the night. Close your eyes, breathe softly, and let peace settle upon you. For though the Garden of Eden lies far behind, the promise of a new garden filled with everlasting joy still awaits. Sleep now in hope and in peace. And so, dear friend, we have reached the end of the story of Adam and Eve, a story of love, of choice, of loss, and of hope. Though they left the Garden of Eden, God's promise of redemption remained, and that promise still echoes for us today. As you prepare to rest, may your heart be filled with peace, comfort, and the quiet assurance that you are never alone. Key Same God who cared for Adam and Eve cares for you, even now. Thank you for listening to this bedtime Bible story.